This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. The following Care Lab podcast does not provide health or medical advice. All content is provided for information purposes only. Listeners are encouraged to speak with their healthcare provider for specific healthcare advice and are wholly responsible for the outcome of implementing any tips or information presented.
Welcome to Care Lab.
Welcome to Care Lab. I am super excited for today's episode. It's going to be awesome.
I'm very excited because today we get to talk to Sarah Dillingham, and she's an arthritis patient on a mission to empower women and with chronic joint pain. And she started Grace Enable with a hand therapist named Trevor to make effective and comfortable joint support that attracts compliments instead of stares, which I love, because then that means people will actually use it and then get the benefits out of it. And so I'm so glad that we're able to have you on the episode. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. And I'm super thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Before we get started, I have a quick question for you both. And Sarah, just to warn you, you have to go first.
Okay.
How it goes here.
Because
Lovely.
that's just to give you that little warning. You have to go first because you're the guest. But I promise it's not a terribly hard question. So
Okay.
it's sort of a two-parter though. First,
Go on then.
the first question is, first part of it is, do you karaoke? And the second is, if you don't karaoke, why not? And if you do karaoke, what is your go-to song?
Oh, so that's good questions. Unfortunately, I do karaoke.
Not unfortunately.
I am not very good at it. And so I actually have two go-to songs. One is Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis, and the other is Hotel California by the Eagles.
Oh,
And
nice.
the reason they're my go-to songs is because I have a very limited singing range, and they're about the only two I can manage. I don't go squeaky, so yeah.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Brandy?
Okay. Yes to question number one. I do karaoke.
Yeah.
The answer to that is my favorite song to do is More Money, More Problems by Notorious B.I.G. It's
Oh
the first
my
song I
gosh.
learned
I'm
all the words
impressed.
to. And
That's
so
amazing.
I feel very proud that I know all the words and everybody's verses. So
You
much so
should.
that we did this at my wedding. And I rapped the whole thing at the
Wow.
reception.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that's my song.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I also karaoke. And further, anyone listening who is not a karaokeer out there, I have to say I highly recommend it. There is nothing more freeing than belting out a tune, whether or not you can sing it, and then realizing that everything's going to be okay afterwards. It's actually super empowering. So if you don't karaoke, give it a try. My go-to song is Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi.
Nice.
And I will also say there's not a whole lot of singing, like not something that you would consider singing in the sense of it being pleasant to listen to, probably, that happens during my rendition of Living on a Prayer, but it's a crowd pleaser.
There
It's
you
more
go.
of a show that I put on, more of a performance, I would say.
Nice.
Where
We're
some,
here for the experience.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm making vocal sounds and saying the correct words. But it's such a crowd pleaser. Everyone can get into it. Like there's a moment for everyone. There's a lot of drama in the song. Tommy used to work on the docks. They went on strike. Like, oh no, he's down on his luck. It's tough, but it's gonna be okay. So we got to hold on to what we've got. Anyway,
I feel like we got a preview of the experience
I mean, you got like
and
the
I,
spoken word version of it. Yeah.
and I would just like to say, Brandy, did you get a video of your wedding?
Oh, that's a good question. I think
That's a
somebody
great
did
question.
record the video of it, but like the video that we were like, this is our wedding video, it has just like a little snippet of it.
Ah, okay, because I think that would be
Yes.
pretty cool thing to keep.
If we get like a certain number of downloads on this episode, would
Oh,
you
Lord.
post it?
Yeah, do it.
I'm not going to guarantee that at this moment.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Just
So,
saying.
yeah, so that we can get myself out the hot seat, let's put Sarah on it.
Yes, let's do that.
Great.
Tell us
Yeah.
first tell us what Grace Enable is, and then why you created it and why you feel like that's so important that you took your time to make this.
Yeah, for sure. So, Grace Enable, we empower women living with chronic joint pain, and we do this by providing comfortable, attractive joint support products like compression gloves and wrist braces that are specifically designed to meet the needs of women as we age. And the reason we do this is because these products are effective at stabilizing joints and relieving joint pain and swelling. In fact, they're actually recommended by the American College of Rheumatology for this purpose. They're affordable, they're non-invasive, they're like a really, really good option to particularly supplement other treatment routines. But the problem is that a lot of the ones that are on the market, they might be made of materials that are not very breathable, or they can be quite ugly and a little bit embarrassing to wear. And what we find is that particularly women don't always feel comfortable wearing these products, and they especially don't feel comfortable wearing them in public. So we want to make products that people want to wear so that they'll wear them more often and get the medical benefit. And that's our whole ethos. Yeah.
So tell us why that's your ethos, because this is not just like a thing you happen to do. This is like impactful to your own life. You're wearing the gloves.
Yeah, for sure. So I have rheumatoid arthritis myself. I was diagnosed over 20 years ago in my 20s. And when I got married a while ago now, I had to wear a wrist brace on my wedding day because I wanted to do a super twirly dance for my first dance. And because of my RA, I've got a bone erosion in one of my wrists, so I had to wear like a wrist brace, and it was really ugly and uncomfortable and lumpy, so I redesigned it and I made it match my dress. And then when I shared that photo online, so I put it into like a arthritis online community, I got bombarded with people saying, I hate mine, I hate my braces, I hate my joint support stuff, can you make me something? And at that point, the answer was no, I don't know what I'm doing. But I went away, and after a while, I met up with a hand therapist, and we decided to get together and start trying to make better products, because as well as my frustration as a patient that there was nothing I actually wanted to wear, he said he had similar problems from the provider side, where he's talking to his patients and he's saying, hey, here's this thing you need to go away and wear. And then they come back and they would be like, oh, you know what? I kind of just left it in a drawer. And, obviously for him, that's just frustrating too. So yeah, that's where it all came from.
I think like so there's like two reasons that I find people don't necessarily want to wear their one is that it's ugly, right? But then, or that a lot of the things that are on the market are ugly. But I think that the other reason that people will often tell me that they maybe don't want to wear compression gloves or use a device or something like that is because it makes them feel more vulnerable, because they feel like it is advertising to the world that maybe they have a disability or that something is going on. And so I think that in making these kinds of products beautiful, I think you actually help to address both of those things by making them more desirable to wear. Is that second aspect something that you have thought of, or something that you've gotten feedback from?
That we do get feedback on that, and that I'm really glad you flagged that, because it's so important. I mean, when we first started what we're doing, we spoke to so many people about their experiences, and we heard so many stories about people talking specifically about that, about how they feel, just they don't want the negative attention that it can bring sometimes. So, particularly if you're in a social situation or work situation and you're wearing a product that says this is a medical product, you end up have people coming up to you and saying, oh, what happened? What's wrong with you? And, that's a bit annoying when you've got like a short-term injury. But when you've got something that's a chronic condition, you're fielding those kinds of questions like every day or every other day. It starts to get a little bit old. And they don't want to advertise that. You don't necessarily want to constantly be talking about your health condition. And the other thing that goes with that is that it's a slightly wider point, is that people's sort of attitude sometimes to these long-term chronic conditions, they're not always very understanding. So, we also heard some very sad stories about some of the kind of comments people would get when they open up about their stuff. And so there's a whole, area there that's, very difficult for people. I agree. Yeah.
Hey there, it's Amelia. Listen, I am so thrilled to have a great resource like Ask Sammy as part of the Care Lab team, and here's why. It's a game changer for aging in place because it makes it so simple. All you do is ask. Just type in your question or even tell Sammy what the problem is and get tailored solutions. Everything from innovative adaptive equipment to comprehensive resources. It's a great way to become more empowered, to live more independently, and to live with greater confidence. And my favorite thing about how Ask Sammy works is it's deeply rooted in dignity and practicality. So whether you're a fellow therapist, a care partner, or someone who's seeking solutions for themselves, visit www.asksammy.com. We're going to link it in the show notes so you can find it there. Start making home more accessible today. Now, back to the show.
Amelia, like, how many things have we talked about on the podcast that were related to the same kind of idea of like, we don't use things because they don't look beautiful or feel like othered because of them. And then we're really hurting ourselves. I mean, I've used the example of raised toilet seats on guest bathrooms. And then we had Silver Tree on with the fall alert wristband and Spring Rose with adaptive undergarments. And like, there's such a good movement, I feel like now, and maybe it's happened in the past and I'm only becoming aware of it now, but I feel like you have way more options in the world because people care about exactly what you just said, which is, I see a problem, this can be solved, and the only thing that's missing is that it needs to be designed well. And I think what I didn't realize about Grace and Able, that you're focusing specifically on women. So tell me a little bit more about why that matters in the design of the gloves.
Yeah. So, the first reason it matters is because when it comes to joint pain conditions, women are more affected. So, the statistics show that 1 in 3 women in the US will experience some kind of joint pain condition in her lifetime, mainly as we age, and that's for a couple of different reasons. So when we go through menopause, we have issues where, reduction in estrogen can cause joint laxity. There's also the increased risk of osteoporosis. And then alongside that, you've got the potential for osteoarthritis, which is normal wear and tear arthritis as we age. And then if you layer on the top that women make up 80% of autoimmune patients, we're most of the autoimmune arthritis patients. So when you put that all together, you find that we've got this really big group of patients who aren't usually being designed for first. So a lot of the products on the market will generally be designed for male sizing, male hand proportions, for example. They'll be marketed in a style that's possibly more attractive to men, like quite sporty, that kind of thing. And so you've got this group of people who have this need, but aren't being served as well as they should. So we felt that this is, not just something we're doing as a mission, but also commercially makes sense as well. Yeah.
I like that you brought up sizing there because, again, as a therapist who has either like issued compression gloves or recommended compression gloves, one of the hardest things to do is actually find the right size, because
Yeah.
that matters so much in a product's ability to actually be effective at what we need it to be effective at, providing the right level of compression and providing that kind of joint support. So like, can you talk a little bit about maybe your sizing options that are available, and how you've been sort of thoughtful in that way?
Yeah, for sure. So we do a size range from extra small through to extra large, and for our gloves, and then for our wrist braces, these come in small, medium, and large. And our small, the thing that's slightly different is that our sizing sort of shifts a little bit smaller and proportionally smaller.
Hmm.
So we actually do have one set of extra large just to cater out that end. But we tend to find that, we have a lot of women who contact us and say, "Oh, I love that you've got your extra small gloves. I love that you've got your small braces, because I can never find anything small enough to fit my
Mm-hmm.
hands." So there's a
Hmm.
whole clump of people who have very tiny hands, or particularly tiny wrists, that find that a lot of these products are just too big on them. And then the way we think as well about our sizing on our products and our shaping that we do is a little bit different. Is, for example, on our gloves right now, we have quite long fingers, and that's because we want to make sure people are getting pretty good coverage. We are currently also working on a glove that's going to have slightly shorter fingers to allow for crafting, things like that. But overall, we want people, particularly when they're wearing these in bed, to get really good coverage. And that's something that we hear a lot, is people want to wear them overnight to prevent stiffness in fingers in the morning. When we designed our wrist brace, again, thinking particularly of women's needs, women very prone to CMC osteoarthritis here at the base of the thumb. So we designed it so that it's cut right up under the thumb, so that it really gives all the extra support all the way up, and you're not, having your like coming around here. So there's lots of little things like that where we're talking to people and we're thinking about what they specifically need. And then in terms of finding the right sizing, we know, I hear what you're saying, it is difficult for people. Um, so we provided, my co-founder Trevor has done some videos showing people how to do it, and also just giving people advice about, how they should feel on your hand. So they should definitely feel snug, but they shouldn't feel like they're crushing, or making your
Mm-hmm.
fingers pink. And you should be able to definitely feel um, cozy and like it's giving a hug for your hand, is what we say to people.
Mm-hmm. You alluded to this at the beginning, but can you talk in a little bit more detail about why compression is a good thing and why it's helpful? And then secondly, why the wrist braces are helpful too.
Yeah, for sure. So compression is great for a few reasons. One, it provides extra support and stability. Two, the because it's giving a gentle compression, it helps to reduce swelling by moving, fluid through the joints. So, for a lot of arthritic conditions, you do get some fluid build up, and so it's helpful for that reason. And then the third reason is that um, it confuses nerve signals. So if you do that thing where you bang your elbow and you rub it better, it does a bit of that as well. And so what we find is that when people put the gloves on, and they immediately feel, a sense of relief. For our wrist braces, they offer a combination of stability and compression. So we use, again, a pretty snug fabric, but the patient can tighten it as tight or as loose as they want, so they've got some control over that adjustment. And then inside the brace, we have a splint that's lightweight and perforated, and the purpose of that is that it keeps the hand in the neutral position, so that it means that you're not going to be twisting your wrists again, particularly when you sleep, or curling up your hands. And this is a good thing because it helps to reduce issues around carpal tunnel syndrome, because you're not curling over like that. So when you put all of these things together, they start to have really positive effects in terms of pain relief and relief of swelling, and giving people a bit of extra support. And one of the things we do when we collect our reviews is we ask our customers to say, has this product relieved pain? Has it relieved swelling? Is it a good fit? We ask them all these questions, and 96% of the customers who leave a review tell us that yes, these products have improved their pain and swelling. So yeah.
Care Lab listener, I have a question for you. If someone you love needed a caregiver, what qualities would you want that caregiver to have? You probably want them to be reliable, trustworthy, kind, maybe just a generally dependable and good person, right? Second question, would you also want them to be trained? I'm gonna guess the answer is a definite yes. Okay, third and final question for you. Do you think it matters who gives that training? Like, is it cool if it's just in your body, or would you want that person to be a qualified expert? Assuming you do, in fact, love this person who needs a caregiver, you probably want the expert, right? Well, that's what Higher Standards Caregiver Training does. Higher Standards Caregiver Training provides 100% occupational therapist-led training for caregivers. Caregivers get taught everything from gold standard foundational skills for transfers and daily living tasks, all the way up to how to deal with specific diseases and injuries. And most importantly, they are taught all of these things in a way that is practical and enhances the participation of the person who needs the care. And it actually protects the safety of everybody involved. Why? Because everyone deserves a higher standard. For a course for individuals or learning about training for care for organizations, find that information at higherstandardscaregivertraining.com.
I also can I piggyback on that a little bit and
Of
just
course.
say how very important something like compression is to like long-term joint protection as well. 'Cause
Yes.
what happens when we have fluid chronically around our joints is so fluid is like essentially like fluid, you can't make it smaller. Like air you can take and you can squeeze it into a smaller space. Fluid, you can't take it and squeeze it to a smaller place. You have to move it to a different place. But so when you have fluid that is chronically around a joint, it causes instability in that joint. And that's where a lot of the joint damage happens when people are going about their daily lives using their hands or other joints functionally, is because if you've got that fluid in there and it's creating that instability, then it makes the joint more susceptible to movement, which then makes it more susceptible to damage, right? So compression and getting that fluid out of there so that the joint can be more stable, like you were saying, and can move more naturally, really, really protects against long-term damage. So it's not even just that they're incredibly effective in that moment of wearing the glove, but the long-term ramifications of how well someone can use their hands or joints is really, really impacted positively by having the appropriate level of compression over time too. So like, that's just, I mean, sorry to nerd out a little bit there, but
no, I'm really pleased you brought this piece in, because one of our key goals is to make sure that people can keep doing the things that they enjoy for longer. And this is what it is if they can protect these joints and make sure that they get the use of them for a longer period of time and really like increase the health span around that. These are things that are relatively simple and non-invasive that can be done that add to that. And so yeah, I'm really glad you went into that.
Yeah, I think the simple and non-invasive is really important, because I feel like the way our society and our healthcare system is set up, and I think it really has to do with the fact that we allow for ads for pharmacy medication. So we get a lot of ads on our televisions and whatever about pills, but we think that if there's a problem, we need to take a pill. And I'm not saying that you can't or shouldn't, but there's a maximum to that, right? And there's also side effects to that. And if you're dealing with something that's chronic like RA, then you really sometimes get to the max and you're still not able to deal with your pain.
Yeah.
And so by being able to have something non-invasive like compression gloves or wrist braces, you get to use that as much as you want, right? And then that can make a better impact on your life and sometimes than what you take internally, without the side effects. I mean, what's the side effects? Maybe a sweaty hand, but with breathable fabrics, then you're not getting that, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
we don't even do a sweaty hand.
exactly. And I think we poo-poo sometimes some of those kinds of solutions because it feels like, oh, my problem is big, so I need a big solution. And what usually ends up happening, especially with pain management, is that you really need a comprehensive set of solutions. You need more than one way to solve it. And this is definitely part of that. So I just like to try to elevate it. It's also kind of like diet, right? Like everybody eats every day. So we don't really think about how important what you put in your body is and how what you change could impact, what's going on with some kind of chronic condition that you have, because we do it every day all the time. But it is really important. And you put all the things together, you can have like a better outcome.
Yeah, and that's something that comes up a lot in arthritis patient communities. So I run a arthritis patient community as well, and I'm very involved with other arthritis patients and people. Is this idea that your treatment plan, it's not just I go to see my doctor and they give me these pills and then I'm done. It's looking across what are all these things that can improve the situation, not just like you were saying, relieving the current symptoms, but also for mitigating about longer term management. And one of the ways I think about it, both for myself or when I'm talking with other patients, is okay, my meds might be 60% of the story, but these kinds of products add in another 5 or 10%, or and then my diet's another 10% or what have you, and then finally you can sort of get to a point where actually I'm really tackling this in multiple ways. And then the last point in that is that particularly with autoimmune arthritic conditions, there is the risk that sometimes medications stop working, and you may have a period of time, a few months, where you are trying to find a new medication, or you're realizing it stopped working and things are flaring up. And I think then having access to these other elements that can improve things, that's where they really become critical when you're in that kind of situation.
What is, and I don't mean to put you too on the spot here, but
Go
is
for it.
there like a particular customer story or like a customer review or someone who reached out to you where what they had to share with you really made an impact on you in terms of, how wearing the gloves or wearing the wrist
Oh my,
brace
yeah,
has changed things for them?
I have several. I'll try and think of some. Okay, so yes, so we do have one customer who has some pretty severe issues um, with her hands and wrists. She's got some pretty severe deformities and fusing. And so for her, when we sent her some braces and gloves, when she responded to us, being, hearing that she is able to wear these things in public and feel comfortable and getting out and about, and that they're really adding to the quality of her life, but not just in terms of the medical side, but also in terms of the appearance, everything. When I hear stories like that, it's very, very meaningful. But we also have just, we hear quite regularly people telling us stories about, I haven't done knitting for a year and I've been wearing the gloves and my fingers are getting more flexible again and I've gone back to knitting. So we love all that kind of story. And then one of my other favorites is, and this is more just a fun one, was we had a lady who had to attend a party for Bridgerton, the TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was a Bridgerton themed party, but she has very, very painful hands. So she was a bit concerned about it. So she wore our pink compression gloves with a pink dress and like lots of bracelets, and made it look like they were ladies gloves. And I think I just loved it. I loved it that she was wearing them to this fancy party. So we do hear all these stories, and it's always very meaningful for us when we get that feedback. And I think my favorite stories are really the ones where someone says, you know what, I've been really limited in some of the things I can do, and now I'm using these products and it's just opened up something new for me, you know.
Yeah. I think as founders, we kind of take for granted that people see a problem and then they solve it. But so many other people probably saw the same problem but didn't solve it. So tell me, what do you think was your motivation, or what made you feel like you could come back and do this? Because immediately after you did the wrist brace for your own wedding, you had people say, make me some. And so you could have just been like, doing it, but you said you went away and you came back to it. So what was happening in the midst of that led you to say, you know what, let me come and try to tackle this?
Oh, yeah. Good question. So, well, first of all, I had some life things going on that meant it wasn't really a good time. But also, I think what it was as I was going over like a few years, it was one of these things that just kept coming to mind. I just kept thinking, I can't believe nobody else has done this or is doing this. And I just had such a strong, like, honestly, real mission about it. And every time I would talk to someone else and say, hey, what do you think of this idea? They would say, oh, please go and do it. And I kept thinking, oh, you know, maybe I'm not the right person to do it. And, you know, maybe I don't know how to do manufacturing, for example. And then I realized that you can actually go away and learn these things. You can go away and, you know, go on accelerators. You can, there's lots of information about how to do this stuff. You can talk to other people who've run businesses, which is one of the things I did. And so I do have like a corporate business background, but I was unfamiliar with the world of manufacturing. But by reaching out to other people who run similar companies and doing that kind of thing, I started to learn about it. And it suddenly was like, you know what, I can do this. And then I really went all in on it. I was messing about with the idea in the UK. I'd really, first of all, we came up with the brace and the splint. So in the UK, I'd figured out the splint and, you know, getting it 3D printed and how all that might work. And came up with the brace. And then my husband had the opportunity to move here. He's American, so we moved over here. And because obviously I left my job in the UK, I thought, well, this is it. I mean, this is the opportunity to try this out. And that's when I went all in on it. Yeah. And got together with Trevor, ran it by him. And he was like, yeah, trust me, you know, we can come together and do this together. So that was really how it came about. But yeah, it was just an idea that I just couldn't let go. You know, I just kept thinking, we've got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you were on today, and that we were able to talk about how important these types of products are and how you're really changing the game at Grace and Able to make them things that people want to wear, that are not stigmatizing, and really giving everyone all the benefits that they can and should be able to get from these types of products. So thank you so much for being here. Where can people find these gloves and these wrist braces?
Wow. So obviously, Grace and Able on our website, but we're very excited to announce that you're going to be able to find us on Ask Sammy.
So, yay! Excited about that.
Yeah, I didn't even know that before I asked that question. I actually wasn't teeing anything up. I didn't know that.
Yes, we're so excited to be able to have them at
really am.
So that's really awesome. And then also, like, because you probably didn't know this, Amelia, but there's new stuff coming out too. So tell us a little bit about where you're going with what you already have and what's coming in the future.
Yeah, so we are working on new products, and I can give you a little bit of a sneak peek if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have some new colors that we've been working on. So these are some of the new colors we've got coming out, and this is something that's been really requested. Is people wanted some colors that were more aligned with different skin tones. So we actually worked with another company that has some expertise in this area to make sure we get some good colors. And so we've got those coming out very, very shortly. And then we're also working on a thumb product, and we are also working on some other compression products for elbows and knees. And so our goal is we really want to get these things moving and get them out for early 2025. Yeah.
That's really exciting. Yeah.
Yes, very exciting.
Well, if you guys made it to the end of this episode, then you should like and subscribe, and also rate us so that other people can find us. And be sure to look up Grace and Abel at their website, but probably you should go to AskSammy.com and do it.
Yeah, you should definitely do it, AskSammy.com.
And we're just so grateful and appreciative that you joined us today. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for being here. We will see you all next time on Care Lab.
Bye.
Bye.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.